and welcome back. My name is Margot Halleck and I'm the artist behind the brand Pointebrush. And I wanted to do a video today about ballet again. It's been a while since I think the last time I did one was one of my Pointe Shoe videos. So I wanted to dive back into the world of dance and ballet and take you through my journey in returning to ballet as an adult. Get comfy. I know I have my cup of coffee right here. I'm a coffee drinker. And I'll tell you all about it. I started ballet at around the age of, I want to say 3 or 4 years old. My mom was a ballet dancer herself, not a professional, but she was really serious, just like myself. She was really excited to share her passion for dance and for ballet with me. So she signed me up at a local school, the Carol Bateman School of Dance in Hong Kong, which is where I grew up. And at that time, 3 or 4 years old, you're really not doing much. You're just kind of moving around, like getting all that childhood energy out of the way. But when I got a little bit older, my mom wanted to sign me up for a much more serious kind of academic school. So at the age of maybe 5 or 6, she enrolled me in what was at the time, I believe, the only pre-professional school in Hong Kong, the JW School of Ballet. And I was there for quite a few years. I remember enjoying dance, but I remember what I wanted out of ballet was not what I was getting from school. And I was a very musically inclined child, and it was a really academic school, and we followed the Royal Academy of Dance curriculum. We did the exams every year. And I think that as a kid, I don't know, I felt like I was never really able to dance. And that's probably what made me quit ballet at a pretty young age. So we did exams every year, and it was really stressful. If you are familiar with the Royal Academy of Dance curriculum, you study over the course of a year, and then once a year an examiner comes in and you are tested, I guess. So you do a bar, you do a center, you do everything, and you rehearse that exam for, I want to say it's the entire year, but I don't really remember. It felt like the entire year. And it was so stressful, and I remember just being, just hating it. Like I really hated it. By the time I was maybe 8 or 9 years old, I decided ballet was not something I wanted to pursue anymore. So I quit and didn't look back until maybe at the age of 16, where I was reminded again, like, oh, ballet is so beautiful, and I love music, and I'm a huge classical music junkie. I love classical music. So being reminded of classical music, and I wanted to get back into it. So I did for, I want to say about 6 to 12 months, and was able to go on pointe for a little bit, which did not end well. It was just, I wasn't ready for it. So I quit again. So second time, no, ballet not for me, not going back. So from Hong Kong, I moved to the United States to go to college in the arts. So I went to Parsons School of Design in New York, which is where I graduated with a Bachelor of Fine Arts as a graphic designer. And ballet never really entered my mind again. I enjoyed, classical music was always part of my life. Ballet, I enjoyed watching when, going to the theater, but, just forgot about it for quite a long time. And then again, fast forward to 2010, I experienced a really big tragedy in my family. My brother passed away from a brain tumor, which was such a difficult time in my life. It was probably one of the hardest things I've ever experienced in my whole life. He was 19 years old. And oh gosh, I didn't think I was going to do this. He was 19 years old, and we lost him slowly, and it was painful for my family. It was painful for me. During that time, I was looking for ways to cope with the grief. And And so around the same time, there was a documentary on Netflix called Ballerina. It was about the life of Svetlana Zakharova, Juliana Lopatkina, and a few of the dancers in the Russian ballet. So the Bolshoi, the Mariinsky. And I remember watching that and just being like, this is so beautiful and this is so moving. And I remember all the memories of bar and being in class, and that sensation of moving to music came back to me. So I said to myself, why not just sign up for a class? Like, you have nothing to lose, and see what comes of it. And so I signed up for my first class at the New York Conservatory of Dance, which was this tiny little studio run by Pat Hayes, who was the widow of Vladimir Dokudovsky, who was a student of the Imperial Ballet School in Russia. And this school was everyone I've spoken to in New York has never heard of this school before. It doesn't exist anymore today because the building was unfortunately torn down. But it was this tiny little studio which had wood paneling all over, and it had Vaganova style, like 2-story kind of studio where you could overlook from the upper railing down into the main studio. The sound of the piano wafting through the hallways, and that smell of sweat and stinky feet, and the wood paneling everywhere, it just took me back, quite frankly, a few centuries. And I'm an old soul. I love that feeling of history and having come from somewhere in the past. And took my first class in leggings, a tank top, and socks, because I didn't have anything yet. And it was just pure joy. Like, if you're a dancer, there's something about entering the class and dancing, and your mind just completely empties out. Pat Hayes, who was the teacher, used to say to me, when you're in ballet class, no one can touch you. And I think she was right. She is right, because you just become another person. And so slowly but surely, I healed, and ballet helped me heal. Ballet helped me come back to myself. Right after that class was finished, it was like, when can I get back to my next one? It's like being a junkie. Like, when can you, it was over. Ballet was back, and I was back in it. And I think coming back to ballet as an adult was just ballet on my own terms. I wasn't doing this for my teachers. I wasn't doing it for my parents. I wasn't doing it for the RAD exams. It was just whatever I wanted to get out of ballet. I could make it whatever I wanted it to be. Long story short, after coming back to ballet and taking that first class, it was all about when I could get to my next class, and the next, and the next, and the next. Unfortunately, like I mentioned, the New York Conservatory of Dance, the building was torn down, and I don't know if the school is still operating today. But I had to find a new school, which I did at Perry Dance in downtown New York. And there I was introduced to a whole new array of teachers, as well as a neoclassical kind of style of dancing. If you dance in New York City, you probably know what I'm talking about, because a lot of the teachers there kind of, straddle the line between classical and neoclassical. And I just loved it. That was a huge inspiration for me and where I wanted to go with my dancing. I always say now that if I had known that there was a way of moving that was that kind of jazzy, very highly musical way of dancing, I don't think I would ever have quit. My rediscovery of ballet went hand in hand with when Pointebrush started. So the inspiration of an artist is always in what surrounds them. So for me, that was ballet. And not long after I started ballet, I started painting dancers. And we'll get into maybe Pointebrush in another video, because I want this to be more about my dance journey. But it's important to mention that Pointebrush kind of went hand in hand with when I came back to ballet as a dancer. I got fitted for my first pointe shoes about 5 or 6 years ago, I want to say. And At the time, there weren't a lot of pointe classes in New York. So I will say that going on pointe was kind of my own personal decision. And I was not cleared by a teacher to start pointe. I am a very type A, research-oriented, very results-driven, and very focused person. So I decided that I was going to study pointe on my own. And when I felt comfortable enough to join an open class, which was all that was offered at the time, then I would do that. So this is by no means something that I recommend that most people do because it's dangerous. And looking back, it was quite dangerous for me to do. But I did have some training as a 16-year-old and I had my RAD background and I did feel like I knew my limitations and was very motivated and cautious about how to get back on pointe. I followed the Lisa Howell Beginner Pointe student program, which was a DVD set that I purchased. I know this is so embarrassing. Don't do this. I purchased this DVD series, which was her partnering with Vicky Attard, who is, I think she's one of the directors at the Atlanta Ballet, either the Atlanta Ballet or the Australian Ballet, I don't remember, but it was all about learning the fundamentals of just rolling up to pointe, rolling down, nothing fancy, nothing on one foot, nothing on one leg, but I went really slowly because I didn't have teacher supervision, which again is super dangerous. Again, I don't recommend it. It's crazy, but that's what I did. Eventually, I got enough nerve to start doing pointe bar in regular open class, in regular open beginner class. So I was taking class with Dorit Coppell at the time, as well as Diana Warren, and both were amazing teachers. I absolutely loved both of them. And you know, slowly but surely, I started doing a little bit more center work, and especially with Diana, she was so encouraging and welcoming, and her encouragement, I think, was a big step for me in being confident enough to start doing things like turning or going across the floor and petite and grand allegro across the floor, and being able to do all these steps that until then I was only doing in soft shoes and starting to attempt them in pointe shoes. And then I got pregnant. And that was a huge joy. We were so excited about it. But in my mind, I was just, I was terrified. I mean, I was so happy for my son, but I was also secretly so afraid because I had made so much progress and I didn't know if I was ever going to dance again. I asked my doctor about it and I said, can I still dance while I'm pregnant? And he gave me the okay sign. And so if you were at Perry Dance around that time and you saw me in class, I was roly-poly Margot with a huge belly in front of me, and I danced for 8 of those 9 months. I came back to ballet, I want to say about 3 months after. So then, 2020, coronavirus. So that was another huge change. All this time I had been living in New York City in an apartment. And because of coronavirus, my family and I decided that we were going to move out of the city into the suburbs of New Jersey. And thankfully, we were able to find a house that had this huge open basement that I was very quick to claim as my ballet studio. And so for a really long time, I was doing class in my basement, following just like everybody else, these online classes remotely. And most of the time for me, I was doing YouTube classes by people like Tyler Peck or, Catherine Morgan, because as a mom, my schedule is not kind of set in stone and I have to be really flexible. So yeah, that's, essentially where I'm at right now with my ballet journey. I get asked, what is it that you want out of ballet? Obviously, I love the joy of it, but being a very focused, very results-oriented person, I have goals for myself. You'd think that they'd be things like, dance swan lake or do 32 fortes, but my goals aren't that. My goals are more about quality of movement. I like to set goals for myself that I know that I can achieve, and I think that that's something that I think for me is achievable. Which is not to say that I don't want to, one day be able to, do fouettes and on pointe and things like that. But for right now, at least, and obviously as an adult dancer, you're always moving the goalpost. My goalpost for pointe was being able to do a releve in center. That was my goalpost at the beginning. I never, in my wildest dreams, thought that I could ever turn or dance, be able to do any kind of choreography across the floor. I didn't think that was in my cards at all. So clearly the goalpost is always moving. But for now, my goals are to dance in a quality in which, somebody would look at and say, that person was trained properly and she's interesting to watch. Like, that is something that I would really love to be able to do, is be somebody who's an interesting and artistic dancer to watch. That's it. This was a wild ride. I'm exhausted, but that was my journey. That's how I got from then to today. So again, hope you enjoyed this video. I hope this wasn't too long. I will see you next time, and bye. Oof, that's a wrap.